Anticipated trial of the year officially underway in New York City. Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs facing life in prison on charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. This case, and I understand Diddy's family was spotted heading inside. Who did you see?
It's day one of the celebrity trial gripping much of the nation. Sean Diddy Combs, once one of entertainment's most powerful moguls.
The courtroom in Lower Manhattan was tense as one of the most closely watched criminal trials in recent memory began. 5 federal charges, a possible life sentence, and allegations that have rocked the music industry. On day one of Sean Diddy Combs' trial, jurors, witnesses, and the public were confronted with disturbing claims, emotional testimony, and a battle between two starkly different narratives. Let's break down everything that unfolded on this explosive first day. At the heart of this trial are 5 felony counts: racketeering conspiracy, trafficking by force, fraud or coercion, and transportation for unlawful activities. Prosecutors allege that over 2 decades, Combs used his power and influence to run what they call a criminal enterprise, manipulating and mistreating women through violence, drugs, and intimidation. If convicted, he faces life behind bars. Combs has pleaded not guilty to every charge. The day began with opening statements, and the tension was palpable. Prosecutors wasted no time, telling the jury that this case is about coercion, not consent. They described a pattern of abuse and control, focusing on 2 women: Cassie Ventura, Combs' former partner, and another woman referred to as Jane. According to the prosecution, both were drawn into Combs' orbit and then subjected to what he called freak-offs, drug-fueled, days-long encounters, often involving third parties and allegedly filmed for blackmail. The prosecution painted a picture of a man who used threats, violence, and manipulation to get what he wanted, and who went to great lengths to keep his alleged victims silent. The jury was told they would see and hear evidence of physical violence, intimidation, and a calculated effort to cover up what happened behind closed doors. The defense countered by calling the case straightforward, not complicated. They admitted Combs was flawed, with a history of jealousy and even domestic violence, but insisted that the acts at the center of the case were consensual. According to the defense, these were adults making their own choices, not victims of a criminal conspiracy. They argued that the prosecution is trying to turn private, consensual relationships into federal crimes. Before testimony even began, the jury selection process itself became a flashpoint. The defense accused prosecutors of racial bias after several black jurors were dismissed, but the judge ruled that the government had legitimate reasons for each decision, and the jury was finalized. This panel now holds Combs' fate in their hands, and from the very start, they were exposed to graphic allegations and emotional scenes. One of the most powerful moments on day one came when jurors watched security footage from a Los Angeles hotel in 2016. The video shows Combs confronting Cassie Ventura, throwing her to the ground, kicking her, and later hurling a vase in her direction. Prosecutors say this is just one example of the violence used to control and intimidate his alleged victims. The defense didn't dispute the violence in the video, calling it indefensible, but argued it was evidence of domestic abuse, not trafficking. The first witness was Israel Flores, a security officer at the Intercontinental Hotel. He described the aftermath of the 2016 incident, recalling Cassie Ventura's visible fear and injuries, including a purple eye. Flores testified that Combs offered him a bribe, a stack of cash, to keep quiet. He refused, insisting he just wanted Combs to return to his room. This testimony set a grim tone and reinforced the prosecution's claim that intimidation and cover-ups were part of the alleged pattern. Next, Daniel Phillip, a male companion, took the stand. His testimony centered on the so-called freak-offs encounters he says were orchestrated by Combs, where he was paid to spend time with Cassie Ventura while Combs watched. Philip described being repeatedly hired for these encounters and recounted how Combs demanded a photo of his driver's license, which Philip took as a form of intimidation. He also described witnessing Combs physically mistreat Ventura on more than one occasion. In one incident, Philip recalled Ventura being dragged by her hair into a bedroom, screaming and apologizing as Combs allegedly struck her. Afterward, Philip said Ventura ran to him trembling and terrified. These graphic accounts were so intense that at one point members of Combs' family left the courtroom. During cross-examination, the defense pressed Philip on whether these encounters were truly coerced, pointing out that at least one time Ventura appeared to be enjoying herself. The defense used this to reinforce their argument that the acts were consensual and not criminal. The central question for the jury is clear. Were these acts the result of coercion and manipulation, or were they consensual encounters between adults? The prosecution is building a case around a pattern of violence, intimidation, and exploitation, using both eyewitness testimony and video evidence. They claim Combs used his power to force women into degrading situations, then covered it up with bribes and threats. The defense, meanwhile, is not denying that Combs has a dark side. They admit to jealousy, rage, and even acts of domestic violence, but argue that none of this amounts to trafficking or racketeering. They say the prosecution is conflating bad behavior with criminal conduct, and that the evidence will ultimately show these were private, consensual relationships. The atmosphere in the courtroom was electric and at times deeply uncomfortable. Jurors were confronted with explicit testimony about unlawful activities, drug use, violence, and humiliation. Family members, including Combs' daughters, were visibly shaken and left the room during the most graphic moments. Combs himself appeared composed, greeting family with gestures of affection before the proceedings began, but remained stoic as the allegations and evidence were presented. Day one has set the stage for a trial that promises to be as dramatic as it is consequential. The coming days will bring more witnesses, including Cassie Ventura herself, and likely more graphic evidence. The prosecution aims to prove a pattern of systematic abuse and exploitation, while the defense will continue to argue that the case is built on exaggerations and misunderstandings. This trial is not just about one man's fate. It's about power, consent, and accountability at the highest levels of fame. The jury's decision could have ripple effects far beyond the courtroom. As day one closes, the lines are drawn, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The question remains: coercion or consent? In the days ahead, we'll see more testimony, more evidence, and perhaps more answers. Stay tuned for updates as this landmark trial unfolds.